US President Trump's confident declaration that all hostages will be freed very soon echoes with the ghost of failed negotiations that have plagued Israeli-Hamas relations since October 7, 2023. While the world celebrates this potential breakthrough, the sombering reality is that every major hostage deal since Hamas's brutal attack has collapsed, leaving families shattered and the conflict more entrenched than ever. The November 2023 ceasefire stands as the most devastating example of the failed hopes. After Qatar brokered a 4-day truce that successfully released 105 Israeli hostages in exchange for 150 Palestinian prisoners, both sides extended the agreement twice, creating genuine optimism for lasting peace. Well, for 7 precise days, families reunited, aid flowed into Gaza, and the world believed the nightmare might end. Then on December 1, 2023, it all collapsed when Hamas fired rockets into Israel, claiming Israel had rejected their extension proposal. Israel responded with devastating airstrikes, killing 20 Palestinians within an hour and resuming the full-scale conflict. The aftermath was catastrophic. The brief respite had given both sides time to regroup and rearm, making the resumption of conflict even more brutal. Israeli forces intensified their Gaza offensive while Hamas hardened its negotiation positions, demanding permanent ceasefire that Israel categorically refused. With that, trust evaporated completely, and each side blamed each other for the collapse, and future negotiations become increasingly difficult. Throughout 2024, multiple hostage deals died. In fact, in April, talks stalled when Hamas insisted on return of displaced Palestinians to northern Gaza, a demand Israel rejected outrightly. By summer that year, a potentially game-changing deal emerged when Hamas dropped its demand for Israel to commit to ending the war permanently. But Netanyahu sabotaged it by suddenly insisting Israel retain control of the Philadelphia corridor, a condition not previously mentioned by Israeli side. In fact, the assassination of Hamas negotiator Ismail Haniyeh in July 2024, while he was leading ceasefire talks, effectively decapitated Hamas's diplomatic wing. In November 2024, Egypt proposed a modest 12-day deal involving just 4 humanitarian hostages, but Hamas rejected it, demanding guarantees for long-term ceasefire that Israel refused to provide. In fact, Netanyahu was recorded stating he would not end the war even for all 101 remaining hostages, prioritizing military objectives over family reunions. The most recent failure offers the starkest warning about Trump's current announcement. The January 2025 ceasefire began with genuine promise. 33 hostages released, 1,900 Palestinian prisoners freed, and displaced Gaza's return home. For nearly 2 months, relative calm prevailed. But when the first phase ended on March 1st, negotiations for the Phase 2 immediately collapsed. Israel refused to proceed with the original agreement, instead demanding additional hostages before discussing permanent ceasefire terms. On March 18, 2024, Netanyahu launched Operation Night and Sword, in which over 400 Palestinians died in a surprise airstrike that shattered the entire ceasefire agreement. Well, each failure has subsequently made negotiations harder. The November 2023 collapse eroded faith in Qatar's mediation process. The 2024 summer sabotage destroyed confidence in Israeli commitments. And the March 2025 surprise attack eliminated any remaining Hamas trust in ceasefire agreements. Well, now the biggest question is, what happens if Trump's deal fails too? Well, the consequences would be catastrophic beyond measure. Another collapse agreement would likely eliminate any remaining international mediation efforts, as Qatar and Egypt have already expressed frustration with both the sides. The remaining hostages would face even harsher conditions as Hamas loses faith in negotiation solutions. and eventually Israel would likely launch an even more devastating military campaign, arguing that diplomacy has been decisively exhausted. Most dangerously, another failure would probably end hostage negotiations permanently. Hamas would conclude that Israel used talks to buy time for military operations while never intended towards genuine peace. Well, in the end, Trump's announcement carries the weight of history's repeated failures. Until those hostages actually walk free and sustainable arrangements are implemented, this remains what it has always been in this conflict: a fragile promise suspended over an abyss of broken dreams.